The boxing world has been set alight as Deontay Wilder officially called out Anthony Joshua to become his next opponent in a boxing ring. It's been a crazy few days, and things look to be getting even crazier as we await Joshua's reply. If you want to know more about the Deontay versus Joshua fight, stick around until the end of the video. Let's get right into it. First up, there's a lot to consider before the actual fight. No one in the boxing world could have predicted that this fight would happen, and yet it seems like the bells have been rung, and Deontay Wilder is ready to square off against Anthony Joshua inside the squared circle. This is about to be one hell of a fight, folks, with Deontay's punching power and Joshua's ability to sneak in jabs when his opponents aren't looking. We're in for a real treat. Unlike what most people think, this fight wasn't supposed to be a thing. Wilder was ordered to square up against Andy Ruiz Jr., and that fight would act as a final eliminator to decide who'd face off against Tyson Fury for his WBC belt. However, Wilder's team decided that they didn't want to go down that route. We mean the man's already lost to Fury 2 times now. We don't think anyone would want to risk a third loss. Instead, his team put out a statement that they would like to face off against Anthony Joshua either on his home turf, the UK, or on a neutral battlefield such as the Middle East. This in turn has been taken as an official call-out for the former heavyweight champ, Anthony Joshua. At this point, the proposal has been laid at promoter Eddie Hearn's door. Everything depends on him and whether he's willing to talk to AJ and set up a fight between him and Wilder, because Dillian Whyte managed to beat his opponent, Jermaine Franklin, in his recent fight. Everybody thought AJ would have a rematch with him. However, this new challenge from Wilder has thrown everybody for a loop. Next up, how certain are we that the fight will happen?
And look, if not, we're fighting Ruiz. It'll be early in next year.
Well, what better source than Wilder's manager himself, Shelly Finkel? Finkel recently issued a statement to the media talking about whether the fight could happen. He talked about how Wilder's team is ready to sign a contract to face off against Anthony Joshua, and they're willing to miss out on the Ruiz fight to make it happen. He talked about how Deontay wants the fight to happen and has his mind set on facing off against one of the greatest boxers to come out of Britain in recent times. He talked about how literally everybody who was a fan of boxing wanted to see the fight happen, and he didn't see any reason not to set it up. He then went on to talk about the fact that if the Joshua fight didn't happen, they'd go ahead with the Ruiz fight. They even offered to face Joshua after winning the Ruiz fight, if that's what it took. To put things into perspective, they were willing to put a title match on hold just to make sure AJ and Wilder could duke it out in the ring. With all of these speculations being thrown around, it's hard to figure out what's true or not. One thing's for sure, Wilder's team is ready to go to any lengths necessary to secure a matchup between Deontay and Joshua. It'll be a fight for the ages, and it'll be fun to see which fighter manages to come out on top. Coming up, does Anthony Joshua even want this fight?
One you want to finally happen with Deontay?
It will. It will.
Next year?
Probably, to be fair, yeah, probably. And we might be back in Abu Dhabi.
The big question on everybody's minds these days is whether Anthony Joshua even wants to step into the ring with Deontay Wilder. Let's not forget the fact that Wilder is known to be one of the hardest hitters in the sport. The man doesn't even need to wind up his punches to knock you out. If you've ever watched his highlights, you'll quickly notice that he'll just throw his arm, connect with his opponent's face, and boom, that's it. Lights out. We also have to take into account the fact that Anthony Joshua is coming off 2 consecutive losses and could be looking for a new team to train with. Imagine losing so badly that you fire your entire entourage. That, coupled with him probably suffering from a lack of confidence, could lead him declining this fight entirely. We've all seen that one clip of Anthony Joshua blowing a fuse after losing a fight that he was sure he'd win. A lot of people seem to think that it was a good thing because it humbled him and taught him that he wasn't untouchable. Now, whether he takes that as an excuse to bow out of a major contest or as a motivating factor for future fights is entirely up to him. We also have to remember the last time such a fight was trying to be set up, back when Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua were trying to step into the ring together. The negotiations fell through as their teams had one big issue: broadcasting rights. Because both teams are represented by different broadcasting companies, this might prove to be a big issue. Finally, who would win if the fight took place? There are several factors we need to consider before making a final decision, plus the fact that we need to stay impartial makes it impossible for us to determine a winner before the fights even had a chance to take place. However, what we can can do is present you with the facts, and you guys can comment down below on who you think would come out on top. When it comes to Deontay Wilder, the big man is probably the hardest hitter in all of boxing right now, so one well-timed punch from him could mean lights out for Anthony Joshua. However, Joshua shouldn't be taken lightly either, as he's shown in the past that when it comes down to it, he'll do anything in his power to make sure he comes out on top. Moving on, let's take a look at how Chisora mocked Wilder after he got emotional because of his last fight. First up, why did Chisora mock Wilder?
You know, Deontay Wilder is very emotional. I think Tyson did damage to him. He's so emotional. You say hello to the guy, he starts crying, so.
Derek Chisora seemed to be pretty mad at Deontay Wilder after he got emotional over the result of his last fight, in which he KO'd Robert Helenius. Chisora claimed that Wilder was getting too emotional and soft for no reason. He talked about how they had a job to do, and getting hurt was part of it. Crying about it wouldn't help. While Chisora had a pretty controversial point of view, we have to admit that he's right about one thing. Getting hurt is kind of something that you sign up for if you decide to get into boxing as a profession. However, we don't think Chisora fully understands why Wilder reacted the way he did. The real reason was a bit more serious. Chisora was pretty vocal about how angry he'd gotten over Wilder's reaction. He even said that if Wilder was that concerned for Helenius' well-being, that he might as well retire from the sport of boxing. Next up, what was the real reason behind Wilder's outburst?
Until I seen him fall on the canvas, you know, I didn't know I did what I did, you know, because we've been training for certain things.
Last month's fight against Robert Helenius was the first time Wilder had been in the ring since his second consecutive loss to Tyson Fury. Now, an interesting thing to note is that Helenius was a former sparring partner of Deontay Wilder, so we're sure you can understand the emotions behind this fight. Wilder managed to knock Helenius out in the first round of their bout, but after seeing the state that Helenius was in, Wilder was visibly shaken. Later on, during a press conference, Wilder had an emotional breakdown talking about the struggles of a professional fighter and the health complications it produces throughout the fighter's life. We can understand how hard it must be on the guy to see a former training partner and, more importantly, a friend having to be admitted to a local hospital just to recover from a fight. We guess it just goes to show that these guys pour their blood, sweat, and tears into their fights, and for that reason, our respect for these men grows tenfold every day. Finally, who's in the right, Chisora or Wilder? If we're being honest, we believe that both fighters are right in their regard. When you talk about Wilder's reaction to the whole situation, you have to remember that this was a guy he trained with for his past fights, so putting him in such a condition couldn't have been an easy thing to do. However, apart from that, you also have to take Chisora's point of view into account, as he's not wrong when he says, this is a way of life that fighters choose to go into, and it's just something that'll continue to happen, whether we like it or not. There's no denying the fact that one of the main reasons why combat sports are so appealing is because of the brutality of their nature. There's no doubt that it's a hard life. However, you have to remember, it pays pretty great too. Well, that's a wrap for this video. Do you think Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua will meet up in the ring? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.